a sword fight. You must think first, before you move.
I'm ready.
Coming from where we did, the average black man is either dead or in prison by 30.
Stick to the music.
It's better odds.
Hey, yo, D, we gotta talk. Wu-Tang. It's the only way we can get to a better future.
Look, I got more mouths to feed. So I'm ready to get busy.
What's gonna be different this time?
This time, I'm gonna have my brothers with me. I've seen every one of y'all as stars.
It's the old dirty bastard, cause ain't no father to my style.
What I'm trying to do is get all of us together to work in harmony so that our music can be complete.
You know how many rappers is out there?
Better than you?
All of us, we've been through our shit.
It could be me in a body bag right now.
Let's use it. Let's make some music.
Sure about the name, Wu-Tang? Yeah, that works.
Hey, yo, you really think we gonna make it?
We're gonna make it. You gotta come in, sword swinging, guns blazing.
You're about to be the next biggest star.
We'll change this entire industry.
Welcome to the African American Film Critics Association Roundtable on Wu-Tang, the American Saga. And today we have the producer of the saga, RZA. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce the members of the African American Films Critics Association who will participate in the roundtable today. First, we have Brandon Collins from Queens, New York. And we have Mercedes, who is chiming in from London today. Carolyn from Toronto. Jill, I'm not sure where Jill is from. But say hello, Jill. LA. Nancy, where are you, Nancy? Okay, we'll come back to her. Tamika, where are you from, Tamika?
Howdy, from Atlanta.
Oh, awesome. We have Kim Ford.
In Atlanta.
Atlanta. We have Karan Lenoir. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, and I'm in Charlottesville.
Okay, and I'm Kim Singleton, based out of New York City. So we'll get this party started, and we will start with Carolyn. Mercedes, sorry.
No worries. Hi, everybody. Mercedes here with She Critiques. I'm in England, but by way of Atlanta, I'm still repping the A. RZA, such a pleasure to speak with you. I wanted to know what your vision was for season 2 and trying to make it different, but still staying true to the story of Wu-Tang.
Thank you. Well, first, I'd like to point out that I'm an executive producer and co-creator of the show. Me and my partner, Alex C., this show started from a book called The Tao of Wu that was optioned by Brian Grazer. And we thought, instead of making a 2-hour movie about Wu-Tang, the story was so full of American life, Black life, young people lives, and we thought that we could just tell our story in a way that reflected not only what we went through in the 90s, but also reflect with a lot of young men and women, especially of color, but as they say, I don't even like using the word of color. Black men and women, but also young people regardless around the world, right? Everybody got to go through this, being a teenager, being a young adult, finding your manhood. So that was one of the purposes behind deciding to tell this story in this fashion. Season 2, what it does is we see our characters overcoming their internal struggles with each other and putting something of a higher calling in front of themselves. And I would use that to simplify, not taking the immediate gain, trading that in for the long-term gain. So I would say the immediate pleasure, put that to the side and let's go for the long-term gain. And the long-term gain, will eventually not just save one family, the Diggs family as in our story, but actually resonate to save dozens of families and even hundreds if you know the story of Wu-Tang.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Hey, RZA, Brandon Collinson, Media and Popcorn Podcast in New York. First of all, you wrote an amazing book. I don't know if you get told that enough, but that's one of my favorite books ever. So I really appreciate it. I want to know, what has it been like seeing your career being adapted for this series? And what are some scenes that made you uncomfortable, especially this season? And what are some scenes that made you really proud of your achievements in path you took?
Thank you. Great question, Brandon. It's very uncomfortable sometimes to relive some of the negative decisions that I made in life and my crew made in life. Season 2 starts off down in Ohio and my character is facing trial and facing his life. And I just never forget going through that process, never forget how my mother looked at me with the eyes of disappointment. I think that's more scarier than a cop. When your mother look at you and it's like, you know what I mean? And that feeling was such a heartbreaking feeling, but it also motivated me to do better. I didn't want my mother to ever look at me like that. And when I watch the show and I see, when Erica Alexander looks at Ashton, what did you do again? And it's just like, he didn't have to tell her. She just could look and know that this kid is headed down the wrong path. And so those scenes like that really, shake me personally. But then I got to, like you said, the nostalgic joy of, I never forget the day when that trial was over. And it was like Robert Diggs not guilty, and the joy on my family's face and the joy on my face. And we actually was able to use the real name of the lawyer, Dominic Oliveto, who was, don't take a lot of cases, didn't want to take the case, decided to take that case in real life because of my mother. Her personality, her poise, the way she kept her home and everything, based on how the community was looking, he was like, this is a family that deserves a chance. And he took the case and fought it out. So just to answer your question, it is some pain there, but it's a lot of joy knowing that we overcame those obstacles.
Thank you. And it's a terrific series.
Thank you.
Hi, RZA. Kim Singleton, Considered Blacklit podcast and television show out of New York City. Huge fan of Wu-Tang, huge fan of yours. There's a lot of things I liked about the series, but one particular thing, I liked how you visualized the creative process that you went through when you were producing the music. Talk to us a little bit about how those scenes came about and what went into putting that together.
Well, to reenact, produce it, and to have our actor Ashton Sanders, learn how to play with the buttons and remake these beats. We gave him training, but we also kept DJ Mathematics on set at all times with him. So whether I was in LA, New York, or in post-production or pre-production for another episode, Mathematics, who was a Wu-Tang member, he was always there. But there's a scene in episode 6, and I know the audience haven't gotten to episode 6 yet. I think you guys have. And we wanted to tell the story of the creative process unlike any that's been captured before. And we said the best way to do it, right, was to try to go into the mind of our character and me, right? Go into the mind of the RZA. And when you look at hip hop is grabbing music from everywhere, whether it's a Miles Davis horn, a James Brown vocal sample, a Rolling Stone snare drum, a Billy Squier kick, Aaron Peebles voice sample sped up, the main ingredients. We pull from all these things and we make a collage of sounds that ends up becoming 4 bars, but it could have came from over 10, 12 different inspirations. And so in a way, it's just like we wanted to tell that story. So when people get a chance to see this episode, you'll see that we have the drummer from the Honey Drippers. We place the drummers from the main ingredients. And we wanted to say, well, how would that feel in real life if I'm the drummer of the main ingredients and I got Cuba Gooding Sr. singing right here and I got the guitar player and then the Honey Drippers from Queens come in and take some of these players and mix them all together. How would that feel? And we had a great writer on the episode, Lakshmi. And I just felt like it was a way that we never seen anybody go into the creative mindset. And I'll say one last thing, and I could talk long, so don't feel shy to cut me off. But and then also, how does the rapper, when he's writing his lyrics, where's his brain at? We hear it, but what was all the other imagery that came in that congested itself down or digests down to one sentence? And so this is why we show Raekwon when he's writing his lyric. We see that he sees the whole community going by him. He see bullets, he see people, he see clothes, he see bricks, he see all these things, and that all ends up being one line of lyrics.
Well, great storytelling. You guys did an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, RZA, Carolyn for Carolyn Talks podcast and YouTube channel. So my question has a bit to do with what you were just discussing about episode 6 and like visualizing the creative process of the music. But I want to talk about the inspiration of using films, because one of the things that did inspire you and the Wu-Tang Clan as a collective are action films, specifically Chinese action films. Like you were huge fans of the Shaw Brothers films, like me too. So like the 36 Chambers of Shaolin, I love that reference that you guys throw in there. And so for episode 4 and episode 7 really caught my attention because of how you guys constructed them. And I want to talk about the use of sound, because episode 4 reminds me of a Western. So you have like the use of jewelry that would sound like, the spurs on the boots. Whereas in episode 7, you have like a shootout in a church, which is synonymous with Hong Kong action films. So could you just tell me about using films as visual reference for the episodes that you created?
Yeah, the beauty of film is that a picture could say 1,000 words. And I use film to escape so many things in my life, just in my imagination. And now I get a chance to play in this medium. And so when I get the writer's room together, I actually have a list of films that I need them to watch in order to help tell the story. Because the one thing about Wu-Tang that I found, that I strive to do as a creator, but I also found in my audience is that people come from all walks of life. You got comic book lovers, video game lovers, kung fu movie lovers, black exploitation movie lovers, mafia, people searching for knowledge of self, meditation, Eastern, where all these cultures are part of what I see in my audience, And so I strive as a creative to say, well, let's consider everything as much as we can, of course, and let's play with it. And with the power of a whole series, 10 episodes of TV, I actually can genre hop. And so, yeah, you was right. Episode 4 was totally designed like a spaghetti Western. And when you think of a spaghetti Western like Once Upon a Time in the West, what a masterpiece of filmmaking. And I told our director, Craig, I was like, Craig Zisk, Craig Zisk did over 200 episodes of TV, all right? And he loves spaghetti Western, but he don't get a chance to play because, he's doing Monk or doing all these other different shows, him and his brother, right? So to come in and tell a story and then to use that as a backdrop was so much fun for him. And for us in the writer's room and me and Alex, when we think about the season trajectory, we always like to use unique film ideas and incorporate them into storytelling because that's the power of film. I'll just say one last thing, before we started writing season 2 or in the middle of the writing process, I had a chance to watch the movie All That Jazz. Mm. And Fosse's way of telling that story, I thought was incredible. And I just went back to the writer's room. I was like, guys, you got to watch. I don't know, because some people in the writer's room could be 25, they don't know. So I'm like, yo, you got to watch this movie, okay? Watch the techniques, watch the culture, watch the power of storytelling. And as we are breaking this story for this episode, don't feel shy to incorporate, because if there's any show that could play with these things, it's Wu-Tang. And this is why you see, episode 7, you see us going to that church to describe the emotion. It's just basically because in real life, Sway and Barbito and Stretch made an interview saying when Wu-Tang came up to the station, they bum rushed the station. All these guys came in and it was like dangerous. And so I said, well, I don't want to do that. That's gangster. How can I tell that same story in a way that's going to be visually and cinematically stunning? And that's what ended up with the big church scene.
No, I love the scene. It was very much like 90s action. And also I love the reference to Silver Fox in episode 6. Thank you so much.
Jill Monroe, JacksonStilettoJill.com and YouTube channel. So RZA, I had the chance to interview you before season 1, and I asked you what one of your biggest concerns were when you started the series, and you said was ensuring that what was on the page ended up on the screen. And I think that you guys accomplished that. So for season 2, with that out of the way, what was your mindset going in as to where you wanted to put a period on the series for season 2?
Well, we wanted to make sure we got more music in season 2. So you notice in the second half of it, we just going. And we're telling them small stories about the creation of Method Man and Protect Your Neck, etc. And I do think that we was fortunate that season 1, we was able to, be before the time. But when we got to season 2, we're dealing with things that people may know. And so our goal now was, okay, even if they know it, how do we explain it and show it cinematically in a way that gives it more detail, right? And that's in every episode, we just tried to do that. People know the Method Man song, and you may have read somewhere that Method Man came to my house and he recorded that song in a take or whatever. But did you know that we had to build a studio in the house? Did you know that we had to plug up because I didn't have electricity? I had to plug to somebody else's electricity. And also, the thing that we never talked about, as you'll notice, is, before Method Man had came, to work with Wu-Tang and join it, he was on his way to the weed spot, and it was a shootout, and people died. We didn't want to give the whole thing, but you'll notice that somebody is shot. He comes to the studio. That could have been me, and he told me that if I wouldn't have called him, because he was headed into the same direction, if you wouldn't have called me over, that would have been me. And he was the first one to sign the Wu-Tang contract. And that's why in episode 5, you see Method Man, he signs it first. Can I point out one thing? And I'll go to the next person. We're trying also to show different sides of the industry. Who wants to sign a contract? Who wants to read it? My favorite line in episode 5 is you guys saying, yo, man, for all this shit in this contract, just tell me what you want. Like, you know what I mean? Somebody said, yo, 5 years? That's more than the judge is going to give you. Like, and that's how we think, right? We don't want to sign contracts, but in order to do business, it takes paperwork. So anyway, I just wanted to just point that out.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. So one thing I really like about this show is the fact that it shows so much of what life was like back kind of like in that era and how it's kind of different now, like there are certain references. And I wanted to know, how do you think that will impact people today going through like a lot of this similar things? Like, how do you think it will influence people and maybe help them through? Because one of the reasons I feel that way is I'm a fan of Sophia Chang, and she mentions you a lot and how you mentored her in the industry and, you helped her out a lot. And so I kind of wonder, is that part of the goal of this show? And how do you think that that's going to play out?
Well, of course, one of the biggest goals of the show and Wu-Tang in general is inspiration. Something inspired me, so I got to strive to inspire back. So as I was just telling Jill about even just the fact of a contract, there's a scene in episode 3 where we just say it's called bilingual, meaning the way that society hides information and tricks us out of our, even your mortgage, your lease, your rent, whatever. It's so much other language and so much wordplay stuffed inside these paperworks that you got to almost be bilingual to understand it. And most of us are just going to sign, especially if somebody say they're giving you money. You're not trying to really read all that. You read the money part. And so we hope that young people can look at our experience in the 90s, right, and prepare them for what they could face in the 2020s. And it won't be the same, right? You don't have to go and press your own record up and all that. You just can make it and upload it, right? But still, what about your copyright, right? What about the infringement on somebody else's copyright, you know? And what about the value of what it is in the long term? So we try to show that. Then even more just in the street level, there's so many of us that's attracted to street life. You know, it's just an attractive thing. And, you know, there's a thing now that I think they call it, I'm not going to say the word, but it's a genetic thing that says that some genetics are basically from the trauma of our past, it genetically alters you, and we're living out that genetic alteration. And we got to change that. You know, we always see, you know, Mario Van Peebles pointed this out to me. So Mario is a producer on this season. He's also directed maybe 3 episodes, and he did a great job. But he pointed out to me, because he works on a lot of things, that Riz, this show, I'm loving working with you, man, because we're seeing Black men figure it out and come together. We're seeing young men figure it out and come together. And that's something that we don't see a lot of. And he said, I'm happy to be a part of that. And I didn't think about it in that way, because he's, you know, look at Nino Brown. He was all about Nino Brown. You know what I mean? He said, but this is like guys putting things to the side and coming together. He felt it was very healthy. So I hope that it does inspire positivity.
Thank you. And I think it will. It has that feel to it.
Thanks, Nancy.
Hi, it's Mickey Newhouse here. I am the founder of Black Rise Weekend that happens every August in Atlanta. And I have a question about the future of the entire series. For it to be on a platform like Hulu, I felt like that was really different. Hulu doesn't have a lot of content, I feel, that caters to that space, especially when it comes to Black creatives, hip hop. And then it's about Wu-Tang. And I thought that was so unique for Wu-Tang's story to be told. And I never would have thought that Hulu would be the platform. And I feel like there is some underlining agendas or future goals that could possibly happen with this platform. So I want to kind of dive into that. Do you see yourself kind of producing some more content for that platform?
Well, as far as producing more content, I guess I'm pretty busy, so I'm always striving to put positivity and bring out more things. But what I like about Wu-Tang being on Hulu is that it isn't a lot of Black content on it, but now Black creators are going over there bringing their product. And I think that's positive. One thing I strive to do, and you can laugh at me about this, but I like to be where we ain't.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then hopefully we can grow there. Because it's called Wu-Tang an American Saga, because even though it's about a group of young Black men, I don't care if you're Black, Latin, white, Asian brothers, you're going to pass through some of these things in life growing up in America. America is a very unique experience to grow up in. I've had a chance to travel around the world, right? It's different being 15 here and 15 there. You know, in Holland, you could drink at 15, right? And they still don't have the same sexual problems. And what I mean by, men and, taking advantage, they still don't have that same problem here, right? There's a psyche here of things we got to face that nobody prepares for. School don't prepare you for what you're about to face in the world. Yeah. And so as a Black man and a Black creator, of course, I'm striving to be in places that we're not, so we can grow in new places. And as a creator, without even putting a race, creed, or gender on me, my goal, right, is to strive to inspire so others can inspire. And Hulu, they actually have been really great partners on this. And what I mean by great partners on this, they've been great actually in knowing when we was going too far with something, but also knowing when we didn't go further enough. They was very cool to be like, I just say this, and this could be going inside behind it says behind the curtain. But at one point, we was going to spend 3 episodes in Ohio, right? And it was going to get darker because Ohio was a very dark point. And the Hulu team was like, this is a great story, right? But it's like, we don't need another wire.
Gotcha.
We don't need another wire. I said, no, this is not the wire. But to stay there for 3 episodes would have been wrong. Because we actually was there for 3 episodes in season 1. So that was a great observation from the executives. And we've actually had a tug of war on it. But when we both sat down, me and Alex and the Imagine team, we're like, you know what, they're right. You could turn to other stations and kind of get that. Let's get out of Ohio. Let's get out of the darkness. Let's come back to New York and let's get into that music and the joy. And you'll notice by the time we get to episode 4 and 5, we are really deep into recording of the classic album, 36 Chambers. Sorry to take up a long answer. Like I said,
that was good.
You gotta chop me.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Hi, I'm Kim Ford of IamKimFord.com, based in Atlanta. I want to say thank you for bringing the story of the Wu to the masses. Many of us grew up, loving the Wu and watched the evolution of it. But it's great that the younger generation, say the millennials, are now introduced to who the group is and now get to see even more so in depth how you guys came to be. So you may have kind of answered this in Nancy's question, but is there anything particular that you would want, maybe new artists that's coming up? I think you mentioned contracts and how you figure things out, maybe that they can learn from you. And then also, as you were telling the full story of the Wu-Tang Clan, no matter how pretty or how dirty, were there any, did you have free range to tell the full story, or did Hulu ask you to, clean up some things, or could you just tell it like it was?
Yeah, they didn't. Well, I'll start from the last part of your question. They didn't ask us to clean up. They was very great partners, and as Carolyn pointed out, we got a whole episode, not episode, but a whole big scene of guys with machine guns and all type of things, right? So they let us play how we wanted to play, but they just was very conscious when we was overstaying in a location or overstaying in something. So they've been great partners. But I really do, desire the outcome is that Wu just inspire. I know I said this a couple of times, but I just use my son as an example real quick. Him and his boys in school, 15-year-old now, they just discovering Wu. They getting their little jackets and their shirts, and he actually came in and asked his mom to give him a new Wu shirt and his boys, and it's like, it's happening new. So they're basically going to go through Bring the Ruckus. They're basically going to go through Method Man. Look, they basically going to have their first drink or their first smoke. All these things are going to happen. You know what I mean? And I just think the way the Wu done it, right, there's a balance to it. It's not all pretty, but it's not all ugly. You know what I mean? As Ghostface say in his songs, he says, he starts off on Can It Be, he's talking rough, but he's saying, I want to have these other things. I'm tired of busting off shots, having to rock knots, running up in spots and making shit hot. I'd rather flip those and flip shows and hanging on my living room wall, my first joint in the wind gold. I want a lamp. I want to be in the shade and the spotlight. So he said, but for now, it's just a big dream because I find myself in the place where I was last seen. But my thoughts must be relaxed, be able to maintain. But anyway, the point is that even the hip hoppers of now will, and they're getting better every year. I heard the new Kanye record and I'm hearing all the other features and everybody is like getting better. Some people are saying positive words. Some people still just want a car, money and all that. And they'll still end up with a dozen baby mothers and a dozen child support cases that is like, yo, you want to keep repeating that circle or you want to get out of that circle and advance further. And hopefully this show, showing our mistakes, will show that, yo, that was stupid of us. and then showing our accomplishments and achievements. And yo, that was smart right there. Those two brothers, Devon and Bobby, walked away. They walked away from going back to the streets and going backwards, and they decided to go forward.
Awesome, thank you. And my hope is that as they watch Wu-Tang Clan, your creativity inspires new artists to be creative and not just to be the same cookie cutter of everything we've seen probably for the last 10 years in artists, maybe to show how you guys use your inspiration of Asian culture to kind of make it your own in hip hop. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Kim.
Hey, RZA, this is Karan from Karanism.com and the Love Music Pleasure podcast. I am so honored because Wu-Tang was such a huge part of my development as an artist and just as a listener, as a consumer. But you've become such a force in the music industry and in production. And you're behind a lot of the sights and sounds we see in television and film that a lot of people don't know about. The choices that were made with the score and the sound design are really impressive that carry the story forward outside of the music of Wu-Tang. So my question to you is, what would you share with musicians and our young people about work behind the scenes in music versus a traditional career chasing a deal?
Wow, that's a great question, Karan. You got a great voice.
Thank you.
We sometimes find ourselves all as crabs in the barrel. Everybody want to be that rapper. Everybody then they're going to be the ball player. Everybody going to be the football player. When my son was in high school, 6'2", nice build. His ball playing was okay. But you know what he became? He became the basketball team's manager. There's so many other opportunities in every field that we could pick up. So for the musicians, you may not become a pop star or a rock star, but we need music on TV commercials. We need music in Broadway plays. We need music in film, television. And now with all the podcasts and YouTube channels, music is mandatory and necessary. So I would advise somebody to take a chance, learn your music, love your craft, but don't limit yourself to your musical outlet. So going back once again on my music team, I got one young kid from Orange County, white kid who went to school for music and creative writing. And he has about 3 albums that nobody's has heard, right? But his sound is heard because he's playing the keyboard for me in this score. And his mother and father is so proud because they looking at it like, wow, they almost gave up on him because, it's 25 years old, 26 years old. And it's like, yo, you're not a rock and roll star. And then all of a sudden the credits go up and his family's name is in that credit. And he's able to take care of his own self, buy his own car and pay his rent. So I love to advise musicians that challenge yourself and find other outlets. I left hip hop for a few years when I came to Hollywood. I connected with Quentin Tarantino and I was used to being the boss. And all of a sudden I was working for somebody. And it was a real hard thing to do. Somebody say, oh no, that wasn't good, Bobby. That's not what I wanted. That's not what you wanted. I'm the RZA. Too many. But it didn't serve the purpose of the film. It didn't serve the purpose of the scene. And it pushed me to dig harder until I never forget the day, 4 days on the same scene. And this guy's like, kicking me to the curb. And then on the 4th day, he just burst into my editing bay and was like, yo, that's it. I'm like, wow. Okay, pushed me further and taught me this. When you're composing, it has to be almost like a rubber band being pulled, but it never snaps. And that's also the same formula for a good scene.
Thank you so much for that. I always say the difference between a novice and a pro is a good body of work. And thank you so much for your body of work and for the expansion of your career, the willing expansion, so that my children even know what you guys were as children and who you are now as men. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Rhonda. It's interesting you mentioned The Wire because I think that these young actors are among the best that are on TV, period. And like The Wire, I feel that their talent is being ignored because some people don't like the packages.
We have a great cast, and I'm glad you observed that. And it's so much fun to watch them do what they do. You know, one of the beautiful things about a show like this is it's an ensemble. And everybody's coming from different places. One guy's coming from Atlanta, one guy's coming from Carlson, Los Angeles. You got Dave East right from New York. You know, you got Jonell Young from Staten Island. You know, it's just, when they all got together, they don't even know each other, you know? And I honestly could say, because of their talent, because of them being young, and because of the characters they're playing as the Wu, these guys actually became a crew, buddies, friends. You know, Sadiq, wow, you know, what a talent. This kid, you know, he must have auditioned 4 or 5 times. We called him back 4 or 5 times, man. And that's a probably very frustrating thing. But I just wanted to make sure that he was not only the strength of Ghost, but was the warmth that people don't know about Ghost. And if you watch that actor, man, what, you know, he's just really doing a great job. And him and Shamik Moore, the funny thing, you know, is that the tension in season 1 was, it was there. And when we wrote the tension, the spelling in season 2, it actually happened in their relationship as people. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. You know, Ashton Sanders, who has so much power in his eyes. You know, some people ask me, you know, while casting this, why didn't you cast someone who looks more just like you, right? Because Ashton is very much darker in complexion. I was like, his eyes, those are the eyes that I had when I was young. The ambition in my eyes, the willingness to be different, the willingness to try it, the willingness to be like, okay, maybe they don't know, maybe they don't get me, maybe they don't feel me, but it's okay, somebody is. And when I saw him in Equalizer 2, he was playing some type of graffiti artist, and they wanted him to be a gangster, and he had the gun, and Denzel made him make that choice. It was that movie that was like, yo, this is the kid. This is a kid that can come and play Bobby Diggs. But thank you for pointing that out. You know, Julian, Elijah, he came from Broadway. He was doing a Bryan Cranston play called Network. And his schedule was tough. And we wanted him, you know, and we couldn't get him because of his play schedule. So we all went, me and a few people from the production went to the play. And I asked, can I, you know, go backstage and talk to Bryan Cranston himself? And we did. And Bryan was like, yeah, I'll make sure this kid will find, he'll carve the time out and give us enough to have first position. And this kid, you know, when you watch him in episode 3, which is one of my favorite episodes this season, because it gave a lot of these guys moments of their own. You know, it gave Marcus Chandler a chance to be Power by itself. It gave Shamik Moore to be Ray. It gave Ashton to be Bobby. And it gave Elijah a chance to be Divine, a whole act by itself. And of course, Sadiq is Ghost. And to me, that was my favorite episode, because you've seen these guys hold the camera, hold the story, and deliver. And I got to point this out, this last thing, and I pass the mic. This is during COVID we shot this show. So we had so many rules and regulations. Oh, you can't do that. You can't pass the blunt. No, we can't. No more extras. It was so many things that made this challenging. And if we didn't have the talent we had, things could have fell apart. But because we have the talent, it was like, you know what? Let's have Shamik just walk through Brooklyn versus we got to stop. We got to put it so busy and so crowded. Let the talent tell the story, and they did it.
Yes, and when I watched over Labor Day weekend, I rewatched the Mice and Men, and they got the essence of you guys for sure. Like, it's no denying it.
Thank you, Rhonda. Well, I want to say what
I was there. I was there in New York in the 90s. I went to Columbia.
Well, I want to thank you all, first of all, for taking time to talk to me. You guys are very important in what you do every day as well. And you know, it's you know, look, everybody ain't gonna like what we do and what I do and the art or nothing. It's always going to be haters, and not even haters, just not their taste. It's not haters, it's not their taste. Some people like, orange juice, some people like cranberry, and I'm cool with that. But it is a joy to have this group of people respond so well to the show. And I also want to take a moment to thank you guys for that.
So on behalf of the largest group of African-American film critics, we thank you, RZA, for giving us your time and sharing your insight into Wu-Tang and American Saga. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, guys. Blessed day. Take